speaker, Nishant, would you like to tell a bit about yourself, what you have studied, where you are right now, your journey?
Yeah. So my name is Yi Xuan, and I have my bachelor degree in China, and then I come here as for my master degree in accounting. Then I saw the Clark open a new program as business analyst for as a 1 year program. So I applied to a new program. I graduated 2 years ago. So now I work as a data audit associate as Info Group. Now they just rebrand to Data Axle. So it's a big data company, and they combine the business data, consumer data for the other companies for like marketing, and we also work for some nonprofit or government for their internal analysis. So I do as an auditor, so we do a lot of client audit to make sure we safeguard our data, and I also do some internal controls, internal audit for our company to protect our data as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Juan. Your profile is very interesting because you did double masters at Clark, and you have a business analytic perspective as well, and you're doing data audit right now. I'm sure a lot of participants today will find it very interesting, to ask you relevant questions. Now we'll move to our third speaker, Nishant. Would you like to tell us a bit more about your journey at Clark and right now where you are?
I hope everybody is doing fine. So I was doing my master's in management here for the past 2 years. I finished in a year and a half, so it took 3 semesters. It's been great. It's been great being involved in some activities and having a few on-campus jobs, proctoring. And right now I'm a business analyst with Premier Food Supplies. It's a food distribution company. They're across about 15 to 16 states in the US, and they're expanding. They're about a mid-sized company. So it's about getting the data. It's trying to like manipulate, trying to understand, forecasting the sales. It's more of an ERP based, and we're trying to tap into more states as we go. So this analysis and making like a model is helping the company with a really great team that I have. It's been great, and I've relatively been very new to this. So it's been just about a month and a half that I've joined.
Okay. Thank you so much. So it's very interesting that you all are somewhat associated, with business analytics, but you all reach there from very different angles as well. Someone had like more direct journey. Someone went from accounting. Someone had like an MSM. So it's very interesting. So now that you are working in an American organization, a lot of international students come to US with that dream, that to be able to work in a professional institute. So what are some of the challenges that that you have faced while coming to this journey? So Nidhi, what are some of the challenges that you faced while proceeding from your studies to professional work? Yeah.
I feel like challenges will be really broad and different for each person depending on their journey, but I'll say like two main points. One is more of like a logistical challenge, which is like visa restrictions and getting hired, and there's just too much competition. Tech is a very up and coming field, so there's a lot of people vying for the same amount of jobs. So that's more of a logistical thing which we can get into. But more broadly, like from a personal angle, I would say imposter syndrome is something that a lot of us grapple with as women in tech. I remember when I joined my internship at Blue Wave Solar, which is a solar tech company. We do like renewable energy. Although I worked on the IT team, but the environment was like the industry was renewable energy, and it was a very fulfilling experience because Blue Wave is a B Corp, and also 40% of the workforce was women. So my first experience in an institution, in an organization after I graduated, was in a place that was 40% women. So that was a really interesting experience to be integrated into tech and do a lot of things that I do. Like I learned Salesforce, and I used a lot of tools that I learned in MSBA, like Tableau, and stuff within the organization. But my environment was something that made me feel really comfortable. We had conferences, we had a mentor-mentee program within the company. So it really helped me understand my place and kind of gain confidence in tech, because that was the first time I was applying the skills that I learned at Clark. So yeah, I guess these are the two main things that come to mind off the top of my head. Like logistical challenges are something that we can work through because there's a lot of resources on it, but personal or psychological challenges that everyone faces while trying to get into tech as a female might be different, and that journey might be more challenging for someone than the other, because it depends on the kind of work environment you're in. So yeah, I guess those are the two things.
I mean, that is a very good point. I'm glad that you found a working atmosphere where you felt confident and really helped you realize that you have those skills. Because this is very true. There are a lot of time international students, when they come to a different country, they don't feel that it might be enough. But like, you believe in yourself. You had great mentors. I'm happy to hear. Thank you so much for sharing your challenge. Yejuan, Vicky, what challenge did you face while you were transitioning from your school to workplace?
Mm-hmm. I think as an international student, so first of all, I think it's the languages, because as English as a second language, we may not as like good as the first language, and when you communicate with different people, we also have different cultures, so that will be difficult. But as for this, I think when you like be brave and you speak more, it definitely will improve a lot. And another things I can think of is for international students, there is a lot of policy or like the visa problem right now. And also, especially this year, we have COVID and the market is very kind slow, and it's very hard for some graduate students to find a job. I think for there's not much things we can do for all the like market things, but for ourselves, we can use this time, maybe have like do some online courses, and also use LinkedIn to find a lot of opportunities, just improve ourselves at this like hard time.
Yeah, absolutely. You spoke very right that right now it's a difficult time. A lot of students have also shared here, the participants that have shared that they are worried that how they're going to find a job. But we have had successful examples like in Nishant, you also found a job during the pandemic time. So we have successful examples. So as you mentioned, developing oneself. And I think the language thing that you mentioned first, I think a lot of international students face that issue. So I think we will come to that as well, that if you can give any tips to to your fellow international students, that how they can improve their language skills, because a lot of even my fellow colleagues have found that they have all the knowledge, they have all the skills, but they don't speak out more because they're afraid. So I think that's a great point. We can come back to it again. Nishant, what challenge would you like to share that you faced?
It's been the culture initially, where it's hard for you. When I've worked back in India, it was just, the people, who you're working with, what the kind of people you're dealing with. It's sort of different. There can be a lot of interpretations with what you actually mean and what can actually be taken. So you have to be a little careful in the beginning till you build a certain level of trust, build a certain level of communication with everybody around, where they know what you're doing. And as far as you spoke about language, I mean, rather than improving it, I would just say, I mean, if you can put across your work right to the other person and just explain. For me, the challenge is to be explaining, say, the most technical thing to a very non-technical person. And if I can do that, I kind of do realize that I understand it myself well too. Because if I can't communicate that to them, because I do have to deal with a certain level of customers, a certain level of stakeholders who do not understand the technical analysis, or if I throw numbers at them, they're not going to get it. So the only thing that they will understand is how it's going to be profitable to them, or how it actually impacts them. So that's one of the major challenges, but it's been good, and I've been adapting.
Thank you so much. I didn't hear the last bit, but I understand what you said. You're absolutely right. This is another way to look into it, that, putting your technical perspective clearly forward in a concise and clear manner, that can be a way to go forward as well, depending on the field that you are in. Thank you so much, guys. I think some of the major categories that I've seen in the question is that the OPT problems, the visa problems, and the job, internship, the first job or internship thing. So maybe let's tackle OPT first. Is there any advice for OPT that you would like to give the participants who are here today?
I think the best advice is that just start as early as possible. Like, don't wait for the last minute because it takes 5 months to get OPT done. You're allowed to apply for your OPT 90 days before your graduation date. So know when you're graduating and calculate back and apply on the first day you're eligible, because it'll take a while. And especially with COVID, the timelines are really, really slow. And if you manage to get a job before that, no one's gonna wait right now. So yeah, I think, I mean, it's always been like that, but since there is so much testing going on, that there's so much visa and regulation changes, election is in 20 days. So I think ISSO is insanely overworked. They're always overworked, but this year it's been crazy for them. So I think if as students, as international students, we know the law, we know the rules and regulations, like what needs to be done. We have checklists for ourselves. Like, for example, I'm not sure if everyone knew when you can apply, what the deadline is. Like, if we know these basic things, we don't have to ask them a lot of questions, and we feel a little bit more autonomous in terms of what we're trying to do, and a little bit more in control of our future if we know when to apply for what and what documents are needed. So I would say that try to be very thorough in what you need to do and do your homework yourself, to know what the process is, so that you can help the people who are actually going to file for you or check your documentation, and the whole process can be seamless. So yeah, start early and do your homework.
Great. What about Yishwan and Nishant? Like, what resources that you felt? So Nidhi said that you have to try to be as autonomous and gain as much knowledge as you can. So apart from gaining, like searching and doing your research, are there any resources that you felt that were helpful for you when you were applying for OPT? Who would like to? Yishwan, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think for me, definitely work closely with the International Students Office, because for me, I actually applied for my first OPT when I doing the master in accounting program. Then I feel like I want to apply a new program as the business analysis. So I need to withdraw my first one because you only can use once as a master degree. So I kind of worry because I can apply for the new program and also withdraw my OPT at the same time. So at that time, I just talked to the faculties in the International Students Office. And when I have question, I just call them and email them. So I think my case is kind of complicated, but they helped me a lot. And then finally, I withdraw my OPT successfully. And I also apply when I graduate from my second master program.
Yeah,
Nishant?
should I add?
Yeah, please go ahead. Any advice or resource that you felt was useful?
So strangely, I mean, we don't really, at least me, you don't really tend to look at the things which are offered to you more easily, which ISSO helped me the most. I looked at most of the resources that were available and went exactly according to the way they asked me to, and it worked. I'm going to, of course, second what Nidhi said, start early. Definitely do a little bit of research, but as much as you can, it's okay to be a pain to the ISSO for a while, but you want to get it right at the first attempt, because if there is something that goes wrong, it's a lengthier process. It's anyway lengthy. With COVID, it's way more postponed. So you want to make sure you're getting it right the very first time. And the other thing is, I mean, that was helpful. And the other thing is, you definitely should know what date to choose, because you may, if you have a job, that's great, choose the first date that you can start working. But I would just say, don't even choose something which is just the last date. Like, don't start like the 60th day, because you may have a job and you can't start, and someone would just, your offer would just go. So choosing a date that you want to start working at is really, really important. And do a lot of research and be very well prepared to start, say, anywhere mid. Like, if you've got 60 days, be sure to start in the 38th day, and just be very, very careful with that.
Thank you so much. I think I'll follow with some of the questions that I have. So a question that came up to me was that why would an employer hire international student who has just 1 year of OPT instead of locals? So I would say that what persuasive method the member is trying to ask that you can use, that you can say to the employer, like, we would be a good addition to your team?
I mean, that's a really tricky question. If I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't have taken this long in getting hired. But I guess honestly, when you're first getting interviewed, when your resume goes to someone, unless they identify from your name that you're not like Asian American or you're not American in any way, like they are gonna judge you on the basis of your resume and get your first interview. I don't think they'll know in your first interview unless they ask you, and of course you shouldn't lie. If they ask you about sponsorship or if the application asks you about it, you have to say it. But if you get an interview without being asked that question, I don't think they will know that you have OPT. And then if you proceed, then it's because they really liked you and your qualification. And then if they invest time in you and they proceed you to like the second round or the third round, that means you are at least good enough to be a competitor or be a contender for the job. And then they can decide if they want to keep you or not based on immigration stuff. But I mean, the point is that the first judgment of you will be your resume and will be your qualifications and how you present yourself, not your immigration status.
If I may add, I might be wrong, but sometimes when you're applying and sending on your CVs, they do ask that whether you will require visa sponsorships. So are you saying that you should first try to find employers who do not ask this question outright?
I mean, I don't think that's a very feasible option because trying to find someone who doesn't ask these questions, like everyone's application process is different. But usually what I would do is if they ask, will you now or in the future require sponsorship? That's the exact question. I would obviously say yes, but they always have, or usually they have like a text box to add clarification. And I would say that, okay, I'm on STEM OPT. I would not require sponsorship for 3 years. And I guess that gives them a little bit of explanation of what my timeline looks like.
Thank you. Another question I would say that I've asked like Yujwan and Shant is that, okay, sending in your resume, ensuring everything is perfect, great. Another thing is that a lot of students who are coming in for masters sometimes do not have previous work experience. So would you recommend the members who are attending today that they should get an internship experience, or would you say that they can directly go on for full-time employment? Because as you're aware, like for some of the masters are like 1 year period, so sometimes people do not get a lot of time to get internship period in. Right now, COVID is also going on. A lot of people are finding difficulty finding internships. So what would you recommend? What path would you recommend toward employment?
I think I would say internship is definitely helpful because when you put on your resume, they will see you have experience, even like in maybe some work experience related to what you want to find a job for. But at this moment, I think if you cannot find an internship, maybe you can try to like put your effort into your academic project. I think there's a lot of online courses, and also for the accounting students, you can prepare for your CPA exam. So even you don't have the internship, but if you have really good GPA and really good academic project, and also you pass maybe 1 or 2 CPA exam, that will make you stand out on your resume and interviews.
Thank you. Nishant, would you like to add anything?
Apart from doing the courses, yes. I mean, there's also another thing where you can actually get certified by a company, where Salesforce can certify you if that's your thing. Google can certify you. Of course, these are not the only companies in the world, but if you do that, it's definitely a step ahead. That is if you don't have an internship. If you have an internship, great. Most of the times, if not all the time, it does get converted, and that's a great head start. But if you can't do that, those are the other things that you may want to look at. You could be a Google certified IT assistant, or a lot of things where it's great as an entry level. Or the other thing that you can have is really highlight or try to, during the period of time that you're in your university, try to do something that would really relate or stand out in your resume. Be a part of, like, someone's a part of WIB, right? You're in women in business. So this would stand out and this would show some sense of leadership. So any of these activities which can highlight a great aspect about you, whether it's financial knowledge or it's just leadership, would really stand out, even if it's no experience prior.
I think Nishant, you make a very good point, and I think I would like to extend this question to both Vicky and Nidhi. That how as an applicant, a person can stand out, so they can get interviews. Because one of the questions that I'm just received from participants, that how what should I do to get interviews? So how can you as a participant stand out apart from, because everybody has a degree, and it's difficult. Everybody has good scores as well, and as you go in a master's field, scores matter less and less. It's more about what you know, what experiences do you have. So
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I feel like every resume looks pretty much the same beyond a point. Everyone's done the same courses, same kind of projects. But I think what stands out is your individuality. Like, there's like, even within the three of us on the panel, all of us have very different paths to becoming a business analyst. Like, my combination of psychology with tech is not the same as maybe like Vicky's, who did accounting or something. So I think your story is unique to you, and you need to try and present that. I feel like people get bored of numbers really quickly, but they'll remember your story. Like, if you can tell, if you can graph out like where you started from and why you want to do what you want to do, I think they'll be really interested in trying to know the person you are. And honestly, beyond a point, it's just a culture fit. Like, we can get people from like the best universities with the best qualifications, but if they don't fit with your team, there is no point. So you have to kind of understand what kind of company you're trying to interview with. If you're going through a referral, that's really good. I think that really makes you stand out. That means you know the person. Try to like, for example, I remember during my kind of application phase, I met with a lot of people just randomly off of LinkedIn or alumni, just for a coffee or even like a call like this, just to understand what they actually do. Because when you read like, okay, I'm like a director of this, or I'm operations manager, you don't really understand what their job is. So I think spending some time to know what you want to do so that you can present yourself confidently is key. So yeah, I think focus on your own story. That's what I would say.
thank you. Vicky, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think for standing out, I think it's really depends, because when I hired by my manager, then she told me later that she just want to person like don't have much audit experience, because she want to train somebody to be an auditor. So she picked me instead of someone who has the 2 years auditor experience and also have a better school. So that really depends. But when you apply a job, I think uh, you can check in that LinkedIn and Indeed. And also when you apply for a job, you definitely need to do some investigation of the companies. So not always use the same resume you used. You need to tweak a little bit based on the job description and based on what the company did. So even for like the same as they all call finance analysis, but maybe some companies, they focus more on the budgeting part, and some companies, they want the person have a very good like Tableau or Excel experience. So just take time to do the investigation, and also send some messages in the LinkedIn to the people in the company to know more about the company and the position, and also tweak your resume a little bit to fit in the job descriptions.
I think that is an excellent point, because LinkedIn is the way to go, especially in America. And that is where you build your network and where you find previous employees to even ask them that whether you would be a good fit and good cultural fit in that organization, as Nidhi mentioned. So I think some of the things that you mentioned, I would like to ask that what are some of the platforms that you use for your job search? Because you mentioned Indeed and you mentioned I think LinkedIn. So what other platforms have you found useful?
So the LinkedIn and Indeed is the main like website I looking for like search a job. And another one I use is, I think someone recommend that to me. It's called myvisajobs.com. So it's like a website. They have all the H-1B visa database. So since I really want to stay here and get the sponsorship, so when I apply to a job, I usually go to that website and type the company name and search it. So you can see, I think in like past 5 or 3 years, you can see how many H-1B visa they sponsored and how many green card they sponsored. So you kind of can get the information. So maybe if you really want to stay here and get the sponsorship, you can start with those companies and put that as a high priority. Just go for those companies first.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Vicky, for sharing that resource. Any other resource apart from this, Nidhi or Nishant, that you have come by and you find useful when you are looking out for jobs relevant to, yeah.
I just stuck by either LinkedIn or Indeed. LinkedIn worked quite, I mean, I got interviews for sure. Indeed, yes, Indeed would definitely be more active. I would say, in my experience, Indeed would more active in terms of getting me even a rejection. LinkedIn took a little bit of time, and company websites for sure. And the other thing I used was a feature on LinkedIn was just keywords that I would put in the search that said hiring a business analyst, and then it would show up a lot of jobs rather than just going on the sections of jobs and seeing. You could specifically go and see which person's hiring for what team and then research a little bit. It's kind of, I mean, not to sound, it's ethical stalking. Just stalk the job poster and just get to know a little bit about him, and so you can really sweet talk the person. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, what's to lose?
Yeah, I think ethical professional stalking would be okay since LinkedIn is an open platform and
I don't
it
know if that
requires.
exists, but yeah.
Nidhi, any other resource apart from these that you would like to share? Anything that you found useful while doing your job research, or now you do?
I mean, I think LinkedIn was the best resource. I also use Glassdoor a little bit because they have a lot of information about past interview questions, salary range, and what's the interview process. So I think I used Glassdoor for that. And I think I used LinkedIn. I also got LinkedIn Premium for a couple of months, which is super helpful. And like Nishant said, I put on some alerts as well for specific keywords or specific jobs. So it will be more curated to my search and what I'm trying to look at. I mean, even like geographical area and all of that. So there's a lot of customization you can do in LinkedIn to serve your purpose. And yeah, company websites, a lot of research. A lot of companies prefer that you apply directly through their website. They have more than just an application, that like they need more than just a resume. Sometimes they need like a writing sample or like another, like whatever work you've done, or like GitHub link or something like that. So yeah, those three things.
That's great. Thank you so much. We will definitely be taking notes as well, so we will send this out to some of the helpful resources that the speakers have mentioned. I would ask this question about this visa visa sponsorship. Although we talked about this a bit, but I think this is a more direct question. That is it necessary to notify the recruiter whether you need visa sponsorship now or in the future when you submit a job application or when you are applying for an internship? Vicky, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can. So I think most of the job I applied, they have the question to ask if you need sponsorship. So I just always be honest and put yes. So other than that, I cannot really think of like if you need to mention before the interview or after interview. I think it's really depends on different company. I think some big company visa is not a big problem for them, but maybe some startups they do care about if they need to spend a lot of money on this application. So it's really depends, but if they ask, I always put yes.
Great. Yeah, I think as you mentioned that it's better to be direct and clear, transparent. But anyone of you had a different experience or would like to share something else rather than mentioning it directly? Nishant, in your experience, did you directly mention that you need a visa sponsorship?
I didn't have to mention it, well, because I mean, I think my name says it that I would need it, and it just turned out to be this way that they asked me, "Would you need it?" and how long before you can actually work, and what are the procedures. They asked me everything. What if in the first attempt it's not, it's not accepted? It's a lottery after all, so it doesn't mean you might just get it. So we discussed the steps, and once they were happy with all of that, they proceeded. But honestly, this is one of my experiences. The other experiences I've always mentioned, or I've clarified, if I've never been asked that, do you need a sponsorship, then I've made sure I let them know, because I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time, where I get my hopes high, I go through 3-4 rounds of interviews, and then they get to know, oh, you need sponsorship, so sorry. So it's much better to get it clear and get it out of the way. But in my experience, it wasn't that bad. Am I supposed to keep talking?
Yes, of course.
I think internet problem.
Okay.
Sarwat, are you there?
I am just here. I was kicked out for 2 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Nishant. I hope, apart from all of them, heard what you said. Thank you for that. Moving on, I would say that one question that I have here, that if you don't have a STEM background, because STEM members are the priority. So, is it possible to secure a job? If you can share any successful examples, in your colleagues, in your work group, you can share that, please. Go ahead. Nidhi, would you like to share first?
Sure. I mean, when you have just 1 year of OPT, it can be a little difficult, because for STEM, one of the reasons to kind of put that across, that, okay, I have 3 years before I would need sponsorship, or you can put my name in H1B 3 times at least if they're agreeing to sponsor me, is a little bit more valuable. But I mean, I've had friends who have gotten internships and jobs who with just 1 year on OPT. And a lot of them, even if they have 1 year, and they've still gotten a job, they've kept like maybe like a contract job, which is a 1 year contract. They've gotten jobs like that. The point is to get work experience, and they know their reality, that, okay, I just have 1 year, and it's a little difficult to first get a sponsorship, and if you do, then get picked in lottery, because it's really not in your hands, even if your application is perfect. So then they have backup plans to either apply for a master's, or maybe go to Canada, or go back home, or some other way. But that 1 year of work experience is still valuable, even if you don't get sponsored. So I feel like, if you can do like a contract job or an internship, which is a timed thing, that would still be valuable.
Thank you, Nidhi. I think you're absolutely right. Having that international work experience, even if a lot of people then move to Canada and they also pursue their careers there. Any other point, Vicky or Nishant, would you guys like to?
I have some friends. They are in, because when I was in the accounting program, they only have 1 year OPT. I'm not sure for now it's how many years, but I have some friends. They are working in accounting firm or as a staff accountant. They do got the job and also got the visa. So I think, yeah, I think just try first, because who knows what happened. Maybe you can just win the lottery the first time, and some people maybe they had 3 times but they didn't got it. So just try it and get the job first and have the experience, and we will see if you can get the first time.
Thank you so much. Nishant, would you like to add anything to this discussion?
With one attempt, of course, it's going to be difficult. It all depends on your luck. But like last year, like 2020, had 2 lottery draws. I don't know if you know about it. So you never know, you get lucky next year, or you have tons of options. You can always go for day one CPT, which is not really most advisable, but I mean, you can always look at that. There are plenty of ways to stay in the US, and I'm definitely only talking about the legal ones. And it's just a matter of luck. But of course, you just got to focus on what you're doing and just make sure that your work speaks for itself. Because if tomorrow, even if your visa is rejected or if you don't get picked, your company may create an opportunity for you maybe elsewhere or do something else about it. I know a lot of companies who do. I in fact have a friend in Amazon who got rejected for an H-1B lottery thrice, and now Amazon's paying for the CPT because they really want him. So, well, these are rare cases, but you never know what can come up for you.
I would just like to add one thing. I feel like, just speaking from personal experience, I've been in this country for about 8 years. And I feel like beyond a point, just wanting to stay here versus wanting to stay here, which is adding real value to your life. Like everyone will get to that stage at some point. Like all international students get to that stage that, okay, do I want to be here or do I want to be here because it's really adding to my life? And it'll be at different points in time for different people. But when you get to that point, you'll know, like, do you want to stay here because the job is giving you fulfillment, or just because you're getting paid better, or you like the lifestyle here, or whatever that is. So I feel like you should just focus on getting that 1 year worth of job, even if you have just one shot at H-1B or getting sponsored. And I feel like the next immediate step should be your focus, because there's just so many moving pieces in the immigration laws in this country. There is no way you can plan ahead. So everyone always has like plan B, C, D. Like you'll always have backup plans. So just try to focus on the next right step.
Nidhi, that's very valuable what you said, and I feel like that's absolutely correct. That whether the work is adding value to your life, I think that is something that a lot of international students realize as they go through this process and as they go through the work experience, professional experience. Um, I have a question that I would like to ask Nishant. Nishant, you were doing your work, doing this transition during the pandemic period. How was it? How was the experience for you? Because that is a pretty, I think, different experience from other people who did it when there was no pandemic. So how was it for you?
I went through, I don't want to bum anybody out, but I went through a lot of rejections. I, of course, maintained a list. I was trying to follow up on everybody. I was being very, very organized. But of course, there was a point where you feel like giving up, and then you just have to wake up and be like, okay, keep applying, something will come by. But it's been difficult. It took me almost about 5 months, 5, 6, I don't know. I don't even know how many months, but I'm just glad to have a job now. But it's been very, very difficult. So I can totally understand. And of course, the political climate and the economy, but those are things that are not in your hand. So the only thing that is in your hand is to be consistent, keep applying, and wait for what happens. I mean, if you start not doing that, then everything else is just going haywire anyway. The world is just chaotic. You want to just be organized a little and do what you need to do every day.
You're absolutely right. I think it's very important that you share the reality with the students as well, because those people who are students, they can start and plan and have the timelines accordingly. So one question I have right now is that when did you start applying for jobs? Which month? If you want to share.
I started applying for a job. Sorry, you want to go ahead?
Go ahead.
I started applying for a job. I would say 2019, but actively started applying for a job since March, April, and yeah, I mean, as soon as you start, it's great, but there's a little bit of a slowdown when it comes to the winter session, and it picks up as you go about in May. And I would say just start early. Just be sure of not missing out, because some companies do have a certain time limit of when they want to hire people for the new fall term and stuff. So you want to definitely be on time and not want to miss out on opportunities. So try to not be lazy and try to aim at all the right companies at the right time.
Thank you. Vicky, how long did you apply for your current position?
I think when I was in the accounting program, I start very early because there is a lot of big companies such as Big Four. They start very early. I think September, October, like for next summer or next spring. So that's very early. And for the business and the second program, I think probably March or April, I start looking for a job. And I think I'm kind of very lucky for got my job because I really focus on like spend the full day find a job. Maybe in the beginning of the June, then I just take 1 month to get the job. So, but it's kind of lucky for me. I would say definitely as early as possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Nidhi, would you like to share something on that? No.
I was actually a little late. I should have started earlier. But I remember for MSPA, I started applying in like April, maybe May. And then I was waiting for my OPT, which I got in July, end of June actually. And yeah, so because I wasn't getting any full-time jobs, I just took up the full-time internship. Like it was 40 hours a week, but it was still an internship, which I was really hoping that it would convert, but they couldn't sponsor me, or they couldn't take someone who needed sponsorship. So I had to start looking for a job, which I started in November. Yeah, so I started during the holiday season, which is one of the slowest times because my internship was ending in Jan. So it was like a 6-month internship. But yeah, I was really not finding anything, and I requested my internship to extend it because I was like, because I have unemployment days, I explained my position to my manager, and they were really kind enough to extend it until end of Feb for another month, basically. While I was still applying, I was interviewing, and they knew that I was trying to do that. And so yeah, I would say November to Feb. So took me 3 months to find Intralinks.
Thank you so much. It seems like luck, hard work, and skill all are going together in the spot, and it's
Yeah.
helping you find the perfect job. And I'm really happy for you all. So I would like to open the platform for all the people who would like to have any additional question. I have my first question I would like to ask is that what is your opinion on mass hiring? Is applying to them helpful, or is it better to target mid-sized companies? Yeah, Vicky, would you like to go first, please?
The target, I think I try different types of company I can. I didn't set very like specific which industry or how big the company is. Because for like international students, it's already very difficult. So you just want to take every chance you can. So honestly, I don't set a target for like the job searching.
A follow-up question I would ask you is that if you interviewed for different companies, which companies did got back to you more? Like like were the big companies getting back to you more, or do you think mid-sized companies are more responsive? What did you feel during your hiring?
For me, it's definitely medium size because I did apply some like big company, but some of them just got first round interview or I didn't hear anything. And I do have some interviews with middle-sized companies. Then my current company is also a middle-sized. It's maybe around 1,000 people. So it's kind of middle-sized, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Nidhi, would you like to add to the discussion?
Yeah, sure. I agree with what Vicky said. I heard back a lot more from medium-sized companies than like the Big Four or any of the top FANG ones. Yeah, I would usually just get an automated email. I would probably not even get a rejection or anything like that. You just have to assume that you didn't get picked. So yeah, and I think for companies which I kind of reached out to a recruiter or a team member on LinkedIn and followed up with them, I think those I would at least get responses. Even if it's a rejection, they would let me know. But yeah, I think that was so. Also in terms of targeting, I think I over like the internship phase and Interlinks, like I must have applied to, I don't know, like 200 companies. It must, yeah. Like you do easy applies on LinkedIn, those don't even count. And then you do like full applications on the company website, like, you know, so combining all of that, yeah, probably above 200. So yeah, just target like 10, 15 a day at least. And then like a couple of easy applies every day. Yeah, you just, honestly, it's luck, hard work and skill, but it's also a numbers game. You just have to go for it. There's no other option, in my opinion.
Everybody, we have a target number, 10 to 15 a day. I think that is a good number. I've heard this from a lot of successful members who have gotten a job. I think that would be a good number. Nishant, would you like to add something to the discussion?
No, I mean, definitely sticking to 10, 15 a day. I even stuck by with easy applies, and we don't count them. But more often than not, I heard back from most. And when I did not, I was following up. And when I followed up, yes, of course, I was forcing them to give me an answer, even if it was a rejection, because you kind of have it at the back of your head that what if I get it? So you're always under that hope, and you just want it straight up. There was some that I got immediately, so which I knew was not even read by a human. So most of the times you're just getting rejected by the application tracking system. So definitely please find a way to beat that. And that is just by doing it with keywords. And the other thing is just follow up as much as you can. Try and maintain a list of the people or the companies you applied for. And if you can always, when you do apply on LinkedIn, right, you do get someone you can in-mail. So you can definitely contact the person, tell them and ask them what happened. I had an application. This is what it was. I've never heard back. At least there'll be some kind of closure. And that's to a very large extent very, very important to keep being consistent in applying to 10 to 15 companies in a day. Because if you don't hear back from any one of them, you're soon just going to start really not liking it at all.
I think these are two very important points that you mentioned, that following up to at least know where you stand and what's happening to the things that you have applied for. And also the keywords part, that which Vicky also mentioned, Nidhi also mentioned before, that tailoring your CV resume before when you're for each company, when you're sending it according to the job application is very important. So whenever you're applying. Thank you so much, Nishant. We have, I think, another question. Most of you said use LinkedIn. Did either did any of you send cold messages on LinkedIn, and do you think they were helpful? Vicky, would you like to share?
Yeah, I think I didn't send a lot of cold message. I usually find just alumni or the people who are already kind of a friends of mine. So yeah, I'm not sure for cold messages, but most of them I didn't get the reply, as be honest. Maybe helpful sometimes, but it really depends on different people, I think.
Yeah, I think you saying having some sort of link with alumni or some connection was more helpful for you when you were messaging people on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Nidhi, would you like to add to that?
Usually I would try to add the recruiter or the team member of a job that I was interested in, so I had something to talk about. And when I use like LinkedIn Premium, I would try to send an email with my resume attached. But when I didn't, I would just send a connection request, which is like 200 characters, so you can't really say much. And a lot of times they would accept my connection, but they would not respond to my message. So I would like follow up with them, and they wouldn't respond to that. And I'm like, why did you add me then? So it's really weird. Like sometimes you'll get a response, sometimes you won't. So yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean, even if you like don't get a response, at least you have that added connection, and then maybe you can find other people through that connection. So it's never a bad thing to kind of add more people or try to send them messages and kind of strike up a conversation. So again, it really depends on what kind of person you're talking to, and if they have the time and the capacity and the want to help a random person out.
I think you mentioned very rightly that having that capacity as well, because sometimes these professional members are also very busy. So when you are sending them messages, you have to be respectful of their time as well, and then you're not bothering them. And it's always good to have connection, as you mentioned. Nishant, how was your experience of cold messaging on LinkedIn?
It was tough for the first part. Initially, it's very difficult to just write something and somebody reads it and leaves you in red and doesn't respond. But it's also with LinkedIn Premium, you get about 5 or 10 in mails per month, so you want to use them very carefully. You don't want to just send it to, you see tomorrow a company and you want to send it to the CEO. I mean, like, let's be realistic, they might not read it. And what happens is, most of the times, yes, what happened with Nidhi is I would send them an email, they'd connect with me, but they'd never reply to my email. And if they would reply to my email, I'd get that email credit back, which I would have been very helpful, because it's expensive to keep doing that over and over again. And unless you have a great on campus job and you can afford to keep buying emails, then that's a different story. But that wasn't my case. So you have to be very selective, make sure you send it to the right person, and send it in a way where you personalize it. Don't make it like your cover letter where only you just change the name of the company and you just change the name of the position and you keep sending the same to everybody. Like, the more you personalize it, the more the odds of you getting a reply.
I think you mentioned a very good point, Nishant, because LinkedIn is a social media. At the end of the day, it's not an email, and people like to be addressed in a specific manner, not just messaging out and same templates to everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. I would encourage anybody, if they have any questions. We have 10 minutes left. I have another question. So this is a very honest question. I would say that a lot of people feel scared and uncomfortable with the thought of approaching completely new place and stepping out of the comfort zone. I mean, when you are in university, it's still very comfortable. You have your colleagues, friends, teachers who are, there for you. So when you go to professional, it's scary. So do you guys have any good advice for people who are just stepping out of their comfort zone or looking forward to it? Nidhi, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I feel like all of us at some point have already done that. The fact that we came to this country was stepping out of your comfort zone. You've already done it once. You just have to do it again in a different setting, right? So I think you just have to have a little bit of self-belief. You came to a completely new place, probably a place where you didn't really know the language or couldn't really speak it the way the locals speak it, and you still came here because you're passionate about your education. You want to have a good life. You want to kind of strive forward and do better in your life. So you had that aim, and that's the same thing that you have to carry forward in your job search, because you're trying to get some professional experience. So yeah, I mean, I'm still in Boston. I graduated from Clark, which is an hour away. So it's not like I moved geographically, but I'm still open to the idea. But yeah, there was a time where I was like, you know what, I want to stay in this bubble. I want to stay in New England because this is where all my friends are. This is where Clark is. I don't want to leave this place. But at some point you will realize, and again, it's at different points in time for different people, but I think your 20s are the time to like explore, like live in different places, work in different work environments, meet new people, because adulting can get really boring. And university is a good time for most people. So yeah, I think just try to remember that this is something you've done before. You just have to do it in a different capacity.
I think that's such a honest message. I would say that remembering that we have already done it once and just like taking power from that. Thank you so much. Vicky, what advice would you like to give?
I think everyone will feel scared when they enter to like the new environment, but most of the people I met are very nice. They respect you and respect your culture, and they really want to know more about you. So you can just express yourself and just be brave and tell them about you, about your culture, about your country. So they are all like very nice to know you. And I think also just communicate with more people and know different people, so that also will help you to improve yourself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think absolutely. Being in America, I think it's a great part that you can share your culture. You live in a multicultural society and you can take pride in it. And I think that would be a point that, you can communicate to other people. Thank you so much, Ishwan. Nishant, what advice would you like to give to the people who are stepping out of their comfort zone now?
I don't know. I'm out of my comfort zone most of the times, so it's okay. But I feel for me, I just try and find somebody within, say, if I'm joining a new company, when I join the company, I try to find someone who would resonate with me, and if not resonate with me, would someone be very easy to deal with? And usually that person takes it from there. That's my approach, is try and get and talk to one person who would just make it really easy for you. There's always one person anywhere, whether it's in a company, whether it's in a college, there's always this one easygoing person who will click with you and make things a little more easier for you, and will make that environment a little more welcomable if you didn't find it that way. And to an extent, I know it can be tough, and just give it time. It can take you about, say, a week, month, probably even longer, but it's okay. It's only going to get better, because the more you're in your, the more you really are trying to, like, in a place where you feel, okay, this is challenging and I want to prove myself, the better you get at just networking and like really trying to put yourself out there and trying to like understand everybody else's perspective. If you're open to people and open to listening to other people's opinions, other people will do the same. But if you just are in your bubble and want to do everything alone, it's a pretty tough road for you then.
I think that's a very good advice. And as Vicky mentioned, that you have to be brave. So a lot of articles, Harvard articles also mention that you find a buddy system or a mentor yourself when you go into a workplace who can show you the ropes around, and you can learn the culture from this so you can assimilate better. So I think that's a very good point that you mentioned, that just finding one person you feel you can connect with easily, who can, help you around just understanding the culture, the workplace, can be very helpful for you when you're stepping out of your comfort zone and joining a new job. I will take one last question. So there is this question that, do you guys have any good advice on writing a good resume, like keywords or some ideas? Because now as was mentioned before as well, a lot of time AI, they filter, like, it's not even read by human, right? It gets filtered out. So do you have any advice on that? Nidhi, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I think Nishant mentioned this earlier, but you just need to use some keywords that are in the job description in your resume. So that's the best way to get picked up with and like cross the ATS filter. Yeah, just go through and scan the job description and the qualifications like really thoroughly and try to pick up those two. Like, don't lie, of course. Don't write like computer languages that you don't know, but anything that resonates with your resume, if you can exchange those words with whatever is in the job description, I think that should work.
Thank you so much. Vicky, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, just as I said before, like I usually read the description and just tweak a little bit to align with what they're looking for, what skills or what experience they're looking for. And also another tips I learned is, I know my company, they don't use AI. They actually read each resume. And when we interview, like when we want to get an internship to our team, so we saw a resume, they bold some keywords in the PDF file. They bold the skills, the keywords. So I think it's very helpful when you read a resume in PDF in the laptop. That will really stand out.
Thank you so much. Nishant, would you like to add anything to this discussion?
With keywords, of course, I said that earlier. I wish I remembered the name, but there's a website where there are multiple websites where you can just copy the job description, paste it if it's too hard for you to understand, and they would highlight a few keywords. Most job descriptions nowadays are very generic, where interpersonal skills, and that's not something you want to add on your, I mean, come on, everybody has interpersonal skills according to me, and it's not something as a keyword, but that's something you definitely want to look at. And the other is, if you find the job descriptions too generic, usually what worked for me was going on a company website and reading the About Us, is where you'd get a better sense of idea of what they do and what your department or your role would require of you. If not much on LinkedIn or Indeed, you definitely should visit their website to get a better sense of idea of what they are actually looking for, because job descriptions can sometimes be very generic and very hard to tell where, what is it exactly that they're looking for. Like this sounds like a normal person to me, with must have a degree, must have interpersonal skills, good communication, good Excel. These are very basic things, but if you really want to delve into the details, you should probably sometimes check out the website.
Thank you so much. I think this was really helpful. I personally found it really helpful. I hope it was helpful for other members as well. Um, I would encourage all the participants that if they want, they can go ahead and I think connect with our fellow successful colleagues who have found a job in America, and definitely take, I would say, like, as all of the speakers said, start early, have a timeline, have a plan, and just stick to it. And you have to do a lot. 1 minute. Yeah, sorry. So you have to do a lot of things. So yeah, having a timeline can be really helpful, and that's how successfully you can get a job in America. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today, for taking time out. We really appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions, they can, I think, direct them to the speakers. Is that okay if they connect with you on LinkedIn? All
Sounds
right.
good to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
Thank
you, guys.
Have a good night.
you.
Thank you.